Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Season 2, Episode 10 of the Forge Podcast, brought to you by Shotgun Sports Network Alabama of the Shotgun Sports Network. My name is Ryan Messer, and we've got a lot to dive into this evening. The Birmingham Bulls, unfortunately, did lose out in the semifinals of the playoffs, and the Birmingham Stallions took on the Houston Roughnecks this past weekend. And then the Barons had their second homestand of the regular season, and the Legion took a trip up to Hartford to take on the Athletic. I want to thank you guys for watching, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible, or wherever you're finding this podcast. We also have to say thank you to Blue Spring Living Water for continuously keeping us hydrated with their naturally minerally enriched water bottled right at the source with no risk of contamination due to transportation. And you can find it at your local grocer or get it delivered right to your home. Just go to bluespringlivingwater.com for more information. And with that, this is Season 2, Episode 10 of the Forge Podcast. We're going to start things up with the Birmingham Bulls, who actually had a few transactions over the past weekend. They wound up releasing Matt Clark and reactivating Jamie Dorsey over the past weekend in the middle of the semifinals. But they did take on the Knoxville Ice Bears up in Knoxville on Wednesday, and things started off with Stephen Mundinger in the net for the Ice Bears, and Lotzie in for the Bulls. Colton Olnick got things going early by finding the back of the net just 12:41 into the opening period. 45 seconds later, the Bulls went on the power play for a trip. Then they were able to capitalize, but Andrew Ballant unable to capitalize. Andrew Ballant did score with just 37 seconds left to play in the period. And then into the second, Carson Rose wound up getting charged with a hook just 5 minutes in. After killing the penalty, Phil Ledzianko was able to find the net just 44 seconds later. And then with 9.5 left to play in the second, Andrew Ballant was was actually charged with an elbow penalty there. And then just in the third, got started with the Ice Bears scoring just 52 seconds into the period. They scored again just over 14 minutes later. And then with just 2 left to play, Andrew Ballant wound up scoring, sealing the game for the Bulls, sending it back home to Pelham. On Friday, they took on the Knoxville Ice Bears again, but things got started with Mundinger back in the net for the Ice Bears and Lotzie back in the net for the Bulls. The Bears scored first with a goal just 2.5 minutes into the game. Then 4.5 later, they scored again with things getting very chippy. And the Bulls were getting shots off, but they just unable to get anything in because of the sheer size of Mundinger. I mean, that guy looks like a linebacker playing goalie there. But the Bulls wound up going on a power play just over 4 minutes later. This time it was for a slash. And then with just over 5 minutes left to play, Cole Youngworth was charged with interference there. But then just 34 seconds later, Trevor Thurston was charged with roughing after the Ice Bears wound up tackling Lots while he was in the crease. And then the Bulls were able to kill off that penalty, but in the second, the Ice Bears wound up scoring twice to start the second period. 10:24 into the period for the first one, and then the second one was just 22 seconds later. Troy McTavish wound up getting the Bulls on the board just a minute and 26 seconds later. But that was all the Bulls would get, as the Ice Bears would wind up scoring again off of an empty netter. They're in the third, with the Knoxville defense just completely unstoppable. On Saturday, the Knoxville Ice Bears came at it again early. It was just not enough time for these guys to rest, but things got started with Mundinger back in the net for the Bulls. For the Ice Bears, and then Lottie, actually it was Stewie in for the Bulls. This game got started with Kip Ledzianko being charged with a slash just under 6 in the opening period. And then after killing the penalty, the Ice Bears did score just 5 minutes later. The Bulls did go on the power play just 2 minutes after for a boarding. And then they were able to capitalize, but Kip Ledzianko was charged with a slash just over 3 to play in the first. Then, which they were able to capitalize on just over a minute later. And then in the second, the Bulls wound up tying things up with 2 goals to open the period. First was Cozy with just 7 minutes in, and then Ballant just 12 and a half minutes later. And then in the third, the Bulls went on the power play just 7 seconds in for a knee. Unable to capitalize, Carson Rose did get charged with an interference penalty there. They did not capitalize, but they did score just seconds after the power play expired. And then they wound up scoring again with just 3 left to play in the game to seal it for the Ice Bears, eliminating the Bulls from the playoffs. Final thoughts. This was an incredible season, had its highs and lows, but we did unfortunately find out that Austin Lotz will be retiring after this season. We wish him the best. We actually tried to get him on the podcast, but when Hayden Stewart wound up getting the turf toe injury, we ran into issues with the scheduling because he had to prepare to play every single game. So we gave him that. So unfortunately, we did not get to capitalize on that opportunity. But we wish him the best of luck wherever he goes in his next endeavors. Switching things over to the Birmingham Stallions. They had a few. They wound up going out to Houston on Saturday to take on the Roughnecks, and the Stallions wound up receiving the opening kickoff, and Matt Corral and the Stallions were able to move the ball pretty well to start out, but then got into Houston territory, and then they wound up stalling out around the 30. But we have the thicker kicker who was able to just tack on the 3 points to get the Stallions on the board with a 48-yard field goal. Then the Stallions defense showed up on the following drive as they were able to hold the Roughnecks to an immediate 3 and out. But the Stallions were also held to a 3 and out themselves, unable to get anything going on offense there. The defense did hold up again, forcing another punt, and Matt was able to mix it up on the following drive with Dion back. They actually moved the ball really well, giving him another target besides Davion. But he did wind up giving Davion a 26-yard touchdown pass to put the Stallions up 9-0. And then they were able to pick up the 2-point conversion off of another toss to Davion to go up 11-0 there. 3 plays into the following drive, the Roughnecks quarterback Nolan Henderson did end up getting injured, sending out Jalen McClendon. And with McClendon behind center, they were actually able to get the ball going, and they wound up getting down the field and scored a touchdown. They elected to capitalize on just a 1-point conversion instead of 2 to cut the Stallions' lead to 4. But instead of going for 2 and capitalizing and cutting it to 3, but the next drive, the offense really couldn't get anything going for the Stallions, and it wound up resulting in another Colby Wadman punt. Then McClendon still under center. The Roughnecks wound up pounding the ball down the field, but the defense was able to slow them down, forcing a former Stallion, Chris Blewett, to hit a 44-yard field goal. On the next drive, the Stallions did get things started at the 35, inside the 2-minute warning with a touchback. And then Matt hit Jace for a 15-yard first down at midfield, which he wound up hitting Dion for a 50-yard touchdown pass to get retake the commanding lead there. But they were not able to get a PAT on that one, so unfortunately there. But the Roughnecks did get the ensuing kickoff and move the ball pretty well and pretty quickly, but time was not on their side, and they wound up getting the ball into Birmingham territory. But as they did, an injury did come up and resulting in a runoff of the clock, preventing them from clocking the ball and likely taking a field goal chance attempt with Chris Blewett. But the Roughnecks did get the ball to start the second half. The Stallions were able to hold them to a 3-and-out, forcing a punt. And 3 plays into this drive, Matt wound up throwing an interception, giving the Roughnecks the ball in great field position. But they held them to a 4th-and-1, and when they went for it on 4th-and-1, the defense did hold up and stood them up for the turnover on downs. Giving the Birmingham back the ball, they did get the single first down before going 3-and-out, giving Colby back the ball for another punt. The Roughnecks were able to really get the offense moving and eventually got another touchdown, missing the PAT on that one. But then on the kickoff, Dion wound up muffing the kick, giving the ball back to Houston with great field position. And then the defense really bailed him out when they forced another 3-and-out. And Chris Blewett, really missing the field goal wide right really helped as well. Kind of glad we've got the thicker kicker, but hey, I actually like Chris Blewett, really cool dude. But yeah, on that one. But Birmingham did get the ball back and was able to move the ball really well in the following drive, getting into the red zone before hitting a chip shot field goal. On the next drive, the Roughnecks were able to open up the passing game a bit more before getting the ball to midfield and punting it, downing it at the 1-yard line. Matt wound up rushing for 5 yards and then injuring himself, bringing in former Philadelphia star and Memphis showboat Case Kukas in for the Stallions. He primarily relied on C.J. Marable and Larry Roundtree to move the ball really well, and they wound up, he did throw a single pass to Davion Davis for 36 yards, but then he did throw another one that was nearly intercepted before they wound up running the ball again to get it down to the 32-yard line of Houston before sending Mevis back out for a 50-yarder, which he did hit and is perfect on the season. I can't say this enough how glad I am we got this guy. A really good kicker. Probably not going to keep him after this season, but we'll have to see about that. But the Roughnecks were moving the ball really well on the following drive inside um, the 2-minute warning. But then JoJo was able to pick up a interception there and seal it for the Stallions. Um, really great game. Kind of got a little nervous there, but the defense looked amazing as they have this past season, but still way too many penalties on both sides of the ball, and still super injured. Matt Corral added that list. Deion Kane is hurt with an injury. I know we got a few more guys. I know Ricky Person is back in full practice, but we'll have to see how things progress before this upcoming Friday, where they're going to take on the Showboats when they're back at home. It's going to be Cowboy Night, and they're going to have NASCAR drivers there. They're going to have fireworks after the game. I know 1025 The Bull radio station is going to be sponsoring it. So get out there. Make sure you're out there. I know there's a slight chance of showers, but hopefully it'll hold off to the early morning and then slack off through the evening. So we'll have clear weather for the Birmingham Stallions game. Now switching things over to the Birmingham Legion. They had a match at the Hartford Athletic this past weekend. The Legion came out hot, attacking the offensive zone really well. Danny Trejo was on fire, weaving through defenders. And then in 34th minute, he was shown a yellow card after making some contact. Of course, those guys kind of made it, flop a little bit, embellishing the, hit a little bit, but oh well. But then right before halftime, Ramiz Hamuda was shown a yellow card as well. After a very physical defensive game, they went to halftime with no score. Coming out of the half, the physicality did not stop at all. In the 66th minute, Jake Roof was shown a yellow card, and then unfortunately, in the 71st minute, Hartford Athletic did get a goal on MVO for which was the game's only goal, because the Legion, even though they were constantly attacking the zone, they just couldn't get anything in, falling to the Athletic 1-0. Their next match is back home this Sunday, as they will take on the Chattanooga Red Wolves to open up the Jägermeister Cup. As it stands right now, they are 1-3-2 in 9th place in the Eastern Conference of the USL Championship. Switching things over to the Birmingham Barons. We had a few transactions over the past week. On Wednesday, they wound up getting right-handed pitcher Caleb Freeman up to Charlotte, unfortunately, but they did receive today. They announced they received catcher Colby Smelly from the ACL, and left-handed pitcher Tyler Schweitzer sent to Charlotte, and then Dalton Roach is back from Charlotte, and then Keon Keela we received from the ACL as well. So welcome these guys and wish the other guys luck in Charlotte. But they had the homestand with Biloxi this past weekend. On Tuesday versus the Shuckers, they Biloxi got things started, scoring 3 off of a bases-loaded double in the top of the first. And then in the bottom of the first, DJ Gladney wound up striking out, but William Bergoya wound up stealing second, and Riku Nishida wound up stealing home off of a wild fielding error. And then that was all the Barons would get, as the Shuckers would wind up scoring a run in the 5th, 6th, and the 8th, ending with a score of 6-1. The finals for this game were the Shuckers with 6 runs off of 10 hits. There were 2 errors, and then they stranded 8. The Barons had the 1 run off of 5 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 12. Like I said, we keep getting the guys on, just can't get them in. On Wednesday, they took on the Shuckers again. The Shuckers wound up scoring on the opening 2 innings and then 2 in the ninth. But the Birmingham Barons wound up getting shut out with only 3 hits the entire game. But we did go 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position that evening too. So they were giving us walks, but we just didn't capitalize on it. But the totals for this game were the Shuckers with the 4 runs off of 5 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 11. The Barons had the 0 runs off of 3 hits. There were 2 errors, and they stranded 8. And then on Thursday, the Barons got things started in the bottom of the third with Jason Matthews hitting a 2-run homer, bringing in Nick Podgel. And then Biloxi answered back with a solo shot in the top of the 5th. In the top of the 6th, with runners on the corners, Varys wound up grounding to center for a single and an RBI, bringing in Riku Nishida. And then Mario wound up scoring off of a throwing error when he stole third. That wound up stealing the game for the Barons. The totals for this game were the Shuckers with the 1 run off of 6 hits. There were 2 errors, and they stranded 5. The Barons had the 4 runs off of 4 hits. There were no errors, and they wound up stranding 4. On Friday, the Biloxi Shuckers wound up getting things going, scoring a run in the 1st, the 3rd, and the 4th. And the Barons finally got things going in the bottom of the 8th, where Sean Gusenberg wound up scoring off of William Bergoya single. But the Shuckers were able to get another run in the top of the 9th, and the Barons just couldn't get anything else going. So the totals for this game were the Shuckers with the 4 runs off of 10 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 12. The Barons had the 1 run off of 6 hits. They had no errors, and they stranded 6. On Saturday, we were actually there for this game. The Shuckers opened things up with a 4-run first inning after Riley Goins wound up struggling, but wound up getting pulled early after allowing a home run, 4 total runs, and then walking 3. And then the bottom of the 2nd, after Biloxi pitcher Mendoza wound up walking the bases loaded, Mario wound up scoring off of a fielder's choice, but they wound up having a throwing error, which also brought home Turner. And then Riku Nishida was able to tap a sac bunt to bring in Podkul. And then with runners on the corners, Wilfred Varys wound up hitting a 3-run homer to bring in Riku Nishida and William Bergoya in the bottom of the 5th to give Birmingham the lead. The Shuckers were able to answer back with a run in the top of the 6th, but the Barons were able to hold on to win it 6-5. In this game, the Shuckers had the 5 runs off of 7 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 8. The Barons did really well with the 6 runs off of 7 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 4. On Sunday, they took on the Biloxi Shuckers again, and Barons got things started in the bottom of the 3rd. Riku wound up coming home off of a throwing error, and then Bergoya and Ferris were able to score off of another throwing error after a Gonzo single. But that was all the Barons would get. But the Shuckers got 2 back in the top of the 6th, and then in the top of the 9th with a full count and 2 outs with the bases loaded, they wound up Harold Rosado wound up walking the tying run home. Then in the 11th, the Shuckers wound up getting 2 runs to seal the series for the Shuckers, giving the Barons their first series loss of the season. For this game, the Shuckers had the 5 runs off of 10 hits. There were 2 errors, and they stranded 14. Barons had the 3 runs off of 4 hits. There were no errors, and they wound up stranding 8. They are actually heading up I-65 right now to take on the Rocket City Trash Pandas this week, in which we will actually be going up there this coming Saturday to check out the game and check out Toyota Field for the first time. But in closing, sad to see the Bulls season end, but the Stallions are back this Friday. The Legion is back in town on Sunday to open up their first ever Jägermeister Cup. And then, like I said, the Barons are up in Madison, and we will be up there Saturday. But that's about all we got for this week. We hope you have a great week, and good night.